Hey guys, Chicky Domain, Deboo.com with a Deboo.com forecast update. This forecast update effective around 8:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, September 20th, 2017. And what we mean by that, this video was started at 8:35. There is some load time going into YouTube after we finish the video. This video is likely to be long and in-depth, so I hope you have time to watch it all. For those who follow us on Twitter, you know we've been talking about, speaking of which, let me explain to you about social feeds. We post everything to Twitter first and then decide what may be important to share over to Instagram and over to Facebook. Twitter is a world of PhDs and degrees, a lot of other people smarter than me. But with that said, for those who've been following us on Twitter, you know we've talked about last several days over here in the Caribbean, and we've been hinting at the Gulf of Mexico. October starts the month, climo-wise, where we get back into a pattern of homegrown development. You know, last night we picked out this area of convection. It has since gone away overnight, but it looked like there was some boiling going on there. And then we alluded to, as we started the season, as every season starts, we talked about the round the corner pattern and the hook pattern. Okay, this starts the season off, and it also ends the season. October is that month that it comes back into climo as fronts begin to start reemerging in the Gulf of Mexico during fall as we head into winter. Speaking of which, season's first winter storm warnings for Wyoming today, so strong signs of season change coming. And when we go back to this, and we'll show you this at the end of the video, what the latest GFS is showing or hinting at, and that round the corner pattern, just so we're clear, round the corner is an area of spin developing off the coast of Costa Rica. A front comes in and it starts to draw it up. It rounds the corner into the Gulf of Honduras, where oftentimes you get development coming out of the Yucatan Channel or development over here in the western Bay of Campeche. Now, Texas, I don't want you to get concerned about that because the natural flow of anything that develops in here is a cold front comes in, sweeps it out towards the northeast. The problem is for Florida, Panhandle, and Louisiana is that if you get development in here off the Gulf of Honduras and you get lift, okay, now think about this. Now, Maria is coming in here and lift. Okay, so the pattern, we get into a south to north flow in here, especially post Maria. Once Maria comes in here east of Florida, her trough, just like Jose's trough in here, once she gets up into here, her trough is going to extend down into here. And then when you factor in westward moving tropical waves, we have two tropical waves that are moving off the coast of Africa. Right now they're at a stop with the remnants of Lee. But once Lee moves up and out of the picture, once Maria moves up and out of the picture, this allows the natural flow from the east to west to resume, and the models are showing some very deep tropical moisture getting into the Western Caribbean in here in the extended forecast. All right, so we'll move on from here. We'll show you that here at the end of the model run. Here's the latest on Jose. Now, if you, last several days, Jose has been, models were suggesting another loop-de-loop and then back into the mid-Atlantic. That has changed now. National Hurricane Center official forecast track this morning showing just Jose meandering right in here to the southeast of New England. And we don't know what the final outcome is. Think about the changes with the model, the models over the last several days. Now models want to drop it and then allow Maria to come up through the north following in its wake. Here's the latest on Maria. Maria's made landfall in Puerto Rico this morning, and it's devastating to see, or what we're about to see come out of that island. All I can tell you is this, is that here we are in the real-time phase of land interaction, okay? And think of it this way, looking at this forecast track. Maria came in through here, and she's hit a speed bump. There's the reason why the dots or the M's are so close in proximity in here going into Friday. But then you can see that in the cone of uncertainty, the distance between those begin to spread out. That means that come Saturday morning, she's either going to get up and get on her way, and folks in New England, you're up next on deck. But I also wanted to point out, because for our followers on Twitter, you know, we had posted, I think 48 or 72 hours ago, we put a little icon in here on the southeast Florida coast. A white dot is how we described it, okay? And so these are some of the things that we look at in upcoming forecast track. We don't know what the outcome is going to be with this land interaction yet. Okay, we're just in that real-time phase. And sometimes land interaction can induce a wobble into the system, as we've seen with Irma, how the coast of Cuba over here wanted to hold it to the coast. It was like it was stuck on the coastline. So we're going to find that out here come tomorrow afternoon once Irma lifts back up over open ocean. Now, why is open ocean important? Because there's nothing to influence the land interaction in here. So also about 48 hours ago, I posted, I drew a red line on South Florida, and I drew a red line through, and this was at the 5-day cone mark, through the center of Maria. And I put that there was 400 miles at the National Hurricane Center was showing 400 miles from the center to the southeast Florida coast. And when we go look at the definition of the cone of uncertainty, it's right here. It says based on forecast over the previous 5 years, the entire track of a tropical cyclone can be expected to remain within the cone roughly 60 to 70% of the time. Now, I don't know how you take that. I take that as just a little bit better than 50-50. Okay, and so I caught a little flack for doing that, showing the distance between the southeast Florida coast and, but the margin of error in nautical miles is 211 miles. Why is that important? Because each one of these boxes here is approximately 350 miles wide. If you split that box in half and the cone of error, once this Maria gets away from the land interaction, just like we talked about with Irma, and how there's nothing to say that high pressure couldn't build in and push Irma just a little bit far in here. Remember, we were one of the first ones that said that a southwest Florida landfall could not be ruled out. Okay, and that's back when the National Hurricane Center's official forecast track was over here on the East Coast. So all I'm saying here is it looks like Florida is in the clear, but just a shift over 200 miles could put some tropical storm force winds along the Florida coast. Also on Twitter this morning, we also posted that may not be the case north of latitude 30. Look where the cone of uncertainty is, folks. Again, any shift over to the west could definitely produce a different outcome. We'll have more on that. We'll have to wait to see what the land interaction finishes. Now I'm going to switch gears on you, and I want to go back to how we got to the peak of the 2017 tropical cyclone season. And this is going back to August 24th. August 24th, we had Harvey over here. Okay? And then we've got the development that was going to be coming off Africa. I'm going to advance this for you. That's August 24th. Harvey making landfall into Texas, lifting up through Texas, and then basically stationary. Cold front coming through, sweeping this way. For those who don't understand flow, the primarily flow is from the west to the east across the United States. And during tropical season, it's out of the east, coming out of the intertropical convergence zone to the west. And we're going to watch how Irma comes off Africa here. Let me advance this again for you, because then we get Harvey back over the Gulf of Mexico. And then if you remember, I forget which potential tropical cyclone this was. This was a no-name storm. Let me advance that for you and look at this. Boom. Gale here. potential tropical cyclone number, whatever it was, remnants of Harvey here, and here comes Irma. And Irma came off Africa at an unusual high latitude. Normally, you get the tropical waves in here in the intertropical convergence zone, and then the low lifts out of the intertropical convergence zone. Not with Irma. She came off high off Africa. Move this one more over for you, and you can see the remnants of Harvey moving up towards the mid-Atlantic. And let me back that up, because look at this, how this set up. Potential tropical cyclone 10 turned into the season's first hurricane force low just south of Newfoundland and passing Nova Scotia. Large scale gale up in here in the North Atlantic. Really early signs of winter coming. I know that may sound far fetched to you. I'll do this again here and move this Harvey up in here towards the mid Atlantic. But look. Always watch tail ends of fronts or along stalled or dying fronts for an area of low pressure to develop. Here comes Katia on September 2nd. And then here comes Irma moving across, coming into the Caribbean, making landfall through there. And then look, here's Jose. Right behind. Oh, I'm sorry. Now here's Katia right here. So this is the time when we had, I apologize for that, guys. Always watch tail ends of fronts or along stalled or dying fronts for an area of low pressure to develop. Here comes the front diving into the Gulf of Mexico. Katia develops. Irma over the island of Hispaniola or just north of Hispaniola. Jose. And then here comes 96L and 97L invest behind. Katia dives off towards the southwest and dissipates. Irma comes in and does what? Always watch tail ends of fronts or along stalled of dying fronts for an area of low pressure to develop. Let's stop here for a second. If you folks remember, the longtime followers, you know I said, I can tell you where Irma wants to go. And she wanted to go here, where the front was pinching off. But this flow in here pulled her up more towards the north. I'll advance that for you. Now, this is September 10th going into September 11th. And look at the intertropical convergence zone, how this is setting up. Remember, the west to east flow. That's going to be important here in just a minute, because you can see how the trough of this system, how it is putting pull down here out of the East Pacific. And when these two features meet like this, which it's fixing to come first week of October, guys, that's what it looks like. It's known to produce tropical cyclones in here. And climatology tells us that's where we're headed. Bump you up to September 12th. There goes Irma. Now, this was the point, guys, where we talked about Irma and Jose interacting with each other. Remember we talked about the three systems interacting with each other? This is the point in one of our posts where we described this as Gale, but we spelled it G-A-I-L. And then we had Irma over here, and we talked about how Jose was torn between two lovers. Where is Jose? Jose is at the tail end of Gale, and Jose is at the tail end of Irma. Advance it one more time for you, and Gale splits up with Jose, and now Jose wants to go to the tail and the remnants of Irma. You guys remember that? We discussed this. And then look what happens there. The remnants of Irma moves off towards the northeast in a natural flow, and where is Jose? Advance that for you. Jose now lifts up, and then here comes 97 and 96L, and the start of Maria and Lee. And if you remember, we also talked about interaction between systems. If you look at this cloud feature right in here in between these two systems, they're operating in tandem. See the connection here? They're operating in tandem. They're feeding off one another. And look at Jose now spinning up. Now here we get into real time. Maria wants to go to where? To the tail end of Jose. Move you to the 19th, which is yesterday. You can see Jose's tail now is starting to dissipate. Maria wanting to move up in here. Okay? And here's the remnants of Lee. 90% chance of development. But let me tell you what this is doing out here in the central Atlantic. The flow is like this, from the west to the east in here into the North Atlantic. You have Lee, which is going to be, or the remnants of Lee, going to be a fish storm, and it's going to raise up and move out. Post Maria, going to move up into here. Like we already talked about, her trough is going to want to draw on the East Pacific, just like we described just a few moments ago. But what's happening here is there's a stoplight right in here. And everything that's trying to move off from the west, from the east to the west in the intertropical convergence zone is getting jammed up in here. Once Lee moves up towards the north, Maria moves up towards the north, it's going to release. And when it releases, it's going to end up getting backed up over here in the Western Caribbean, and we're going to go back, and the models have shown me both, into that round the corner pattern or that hook. Here's what the latest GFS is showing. Now, I won't take you through the whole model run. Mind you, this is 12 days out, guys, but I pride myself and my forecast on going 2 weeks out and trying to be the most accurate based on pattern recognition. Pattern setting up, known to produce tropical cyclones. We're all going to have to be on our toes first week of October. It looks like it. And please keep in mind, nothing in weather is absolute until it happens in real time. I'm just presenting some ideas for right now, but big high pressure, 1027 millibar high out here in Bermuda spells trouble for fronts coming through, because what do? We always watch tail ends of fronts or along stalled or dying fronts for an area of low pressure to develop. Guys, that's all I got for you for now. I gotta go to work. I'm involved heavy in this Irma cleanup. I wish I didn't. I'd love to spend all my time talking to you guys about this. Follow us on our social feeds at Twitter, at Dadabuh, Dadabuh, on Instagram, Dabuh Surf, I believe it is, and on Facebook, Dabuh. One last thing I will tell you. Always verify date and timestamps on viewing images on social media. You can get tricked into believing, because there's so many posts, that you're looking at something real time and it's not. Verify date and timestamp. See the National Hurricane Center for all official watches and warnings if watches and warnings are issued for your region. Thanks for following.